Hi, this is Tyler Danburg, third-year journalism major at The Ohio State University. I'm a broadcaster and vice president of Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio, the official student radio home of Ohio State Athletics. I also broadcast games for Big Ten Plus, the streaming service of Big Ten sporting events at Ohio State, and I am a broadcast and media relations intern for the Lake County Captains, the High A affiliate of the Cleveland Guardians in minor league baseball. You're listening to a show that brings people normally outside the stands inside them with Dave Fetzer. This is Into the Stands.
I got to say thank you for giving me probably the best intro I've gotten out of anybody. I've had broadcast professionals, athletes, announcers, all kinds of things, and that was probably the best I've had yet. So thank you for that. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. First off, thanks for those kind words. It's
Dude,
been
absolutely.
great getting to know you the last year, and I was just pumped that you asked to invite me on. I am absolutely excited.
I appreciate you agreeing to come on, man. I know you're incredibly busy, living the life of a student, having class, and working as much as you do on top of that. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on and to kind of set the tone for where I'm going to be going in my next couple episodes. Tyler, as he said in his little intro there, is a part of the Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio Network, part of Big Ten Plus or B1G Plus, however you want to say it, part of calling games for them. So I've gotten the honor and the privilege to work alongside these guys doing the replay and the PA and the scoreboard stuff that I do at Ohio State. And I wanted to give them an opportunity to get their voice out there more than it already is. They've got plenty of opportunities, so I don't know how many are going to take an opportunity to come on and talk with me, but next couple episodes, I'm hoping to get at least a couple, maybe more of the student broadcasters and the students behind what it is that a lot of people don't realize students are doing. So, to start off, I kind of want to talk about that, and then we'll get more into you, Tyler. So a lot of people don't realize, right? If you're watching a game on Fox or something like that, that's professionals, camera people, the announcers, the commentators, producers, that's all professionals. But when you're watching a game on Big Ten Network and more so on Big Ten Plus or a network like that, even ESPN Plus is the same way. That's not professionals. That's people like my guest today, Tyler. They're students who go to that university who have a passion and a drive to want to learn how to do these things, and it gives them a great opportunity to be able to do them in the real world and learn. And so if you're ever watching a game, I want to start out by saying this. If you're ever watching a game on a network like that, and maybe the camera's a little bit late getting to a play, maybe it misses a part of a play, don't be too upset. They're students. They're learning. They'll get there. However, it's an awesome opportunity for these guys to be able to do that. And Tyler, did you know that these opportunities existed coming to Ohio State, and that you'd be able to not only call games on the student network radio, which I think everybody kind of is aware that student network radio exists. That's something everyone has. But did you know that you would have an opportunity to be on TV, on a screen, calling games and doing things like that coming to Ohio State?
Absolutely, Dave. To be honest with you, the Big Ten Plus program and having 36 varsity sports at Ohio State and a student radio network that does almost each and every one of those sports, those were all driving factors as to why I chose Ohio State when I graduated in the spring of 2021. And I think it was November of that same year that I was able to start calling games. It was a women's volleyball match against Iowa that I was so grateful to do and have been doing it since. And that's one of the coolest things, too, especially with our student radio program, is that with Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio, you can show up on campus on August 18th. You can call a soccer match in late August. And that's one of the coolest things that you can do. You get reps instantaneously. And the same can be said about being a part of the crew, being a part of the Big Ten Plus program overall. I mean, you can jump in, you could get hired, and you could be doing shows 1, 2, 3 plus days later. And it's just a really cool learning experience that I'm so grateful. I know everybody in the program is super grateful to be a part of. And when you talk to any college broadcaster, any member of the college production crews around Big Ten Plus, around the entire conference, they are also super grateful and excited for each game they get to do on Big Ten Plus and get to be on screen, a part of such a team oriented venture.
That's awesome. And so right now, the date that we're recording this is going to go out in a couple weeks, but the date we're recording it's April 9th. So there's a baseball game tonight at Ohio State. So I want you to walk me through, for people who might not know, how many people are involved in a broadcast. If we'll say this game's on BTN Plus, I'm not 100% sure, probably is. However, for people who might not know, if this game's on BTN Plus, how many people roughly are involved in that broadcast? And of those, how many of them will be students tonight?
So I'm going to pull up our tech book that our production manager, Marco Fergali, sends out 2 to 3 days in advance before a show. Marco and our assistant production manager, they will be, and that's being sorted through the hiring process
Yep.
still, replacing the great Holly Wintering, who's now at NC State with their program. But Marco is the only non-student that is involved with our show. So we have today for Bowling Green State versus Ohio State, we have 8 different students working a show. 2 of them student broadcasters, the other 6 being on the crew. We actually have Dylan Burns. He is our director today. We have a student directing the show, which
Which is
is
awesome.
always, yes, it is so cool. And that's almost always the case. We have a student being the technical director or the director, which is awesome and a super great learning experience. So if you're watching Into the Stands, listening to Into the Stands, and you want to get hands on, immediate reps in the control room and on a camera, on replay, etc., it's a great program to be a part of.
100%. So that's just awesome. Getting that kind of experience right out of the gate. Like you said, I mean, within days of coming on campus, you could be calling games, which is just so cool to me. Um, but talking now about you, give us a little bit of background on, you're from the Cleveland area, correct?
Absolutely. Very
Okay.
proud of it too.
Awesome. Awesome. So give us a background on, who it is that you are and what kind of pushed you and drove you to want to pursue broadcasting or journalism.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, 2 days before Christmas, I was 3 years old. We were at a neighborhood party where Santa Claus was there, which very, very nice of him, to do that one day out from the biggest day of the year.
Oh,
And
100%.
absolutely. And he gifted me an ESPN clip on handheld microphone. And boy, that was, I mean, Santa Claus was on everybody's short list from there on out because
Mhm.
this little 3-year-old guy was interviewing everybody imaginable at this party. And that's where it all began. I mean, there was never a video game that I was playing where I wasn't broadcasting over it. I'd turn off the announcer settings, playing MLB The Show or Madden or NBA 2K, just have the crowd effects turned up so I can play off the crowd. And I mean, I still do that. I still do
Yeah.
that. My roommates probably hate me, but but it goes to show you, like, you're trying to find reps anywhere and everywhere. And
Yeah.
so I knew at 3 years old that this is what I want to do. I was a pretty good athlete. I mean, I was more of a defensive guy, whether that was a goalie in, all my life playing soccer from age 3. I was a catcher, more so to, well, one, when you're catching, you're interviewing, you're talking to the hitter, you're talking to the umpire, you're always cracking jokes. When you're in the net, when you're a goalkeeper, Dave, I mean,
You're
you're
interviewing yourself.
Yes, exactly. So you have to fill a lot of time like you'd fill on air time. And
Yeah.
so I always just found parallels. And in eighth grade at Fairview Middle School, I was deciding where I wanted to go to high school, and I wanted to get on air broadcast reps immediately. So I went to our associate principal, Ray Moore, and our digital media arts teacher, Mr. Chris Kaminsky, who continues to be an amazing mentor and a role model that I look up to. And we came up with the idea of creating Fairview High School's first ever broadcast network. So we started 2 years out on the radio, and then we did 3 more years on an online video streaming service called Doxcast. So right then and there, that's 5 years of getting to do radio and TV for basketball to start, then football, and then when COVID hit, there were no fans, no, not even parents could attend games during the fall sports season. So that's when really we did almost every sport. Myself and Connor Canfield, who is actually one of our incredible broadcasters that is at Ohio State now. He broadcasts for Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio and Big Ten Plus. So that's just so awesome to do it with him. But
Yeah.
we did all these sports, and that's where that love really got elevated for broadcasting. And it set ourselves, Connor and I, up for doing all these different sports that aren't necessarily football and basketball at Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio and Big Ten Plus.
Yeah, so, you kinda mentioned Ohio State has 36 varsity sports. So, does Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio and Big Ten Plus cover all 36?
So they do not. Big Ten Plus covers at least 18. Those are the sports that I've done. Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio, and again, that includes men's and women's.
Mhm.
So when you cut that down, it might amount to 10 or 11. And then on Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio, we're going to carry 15 by the start of next year. But it's just so awesome to get to do all these different sports. It's
Yeah.
a fun challenge because there are some sports that we don't always know or different wrinkles and challenges. Zachary Rodier and I, who will be graduating this year, we did a rowing regatta in studio where the Big Ten Plus studios are in the
Yeah.
Cavalli Center. One, we did not know much about rowing, so the week or 2 weeks prior were all spent kind of accruing all that knowledge and communicating with coaches and the sports information director, Dan Wallenberg. So it just all came down to, kind of intermeshing yourself within the sport and trying to get as much of a crash course as you can.
Yeah, that's incredible, and, like, that was kinda where I was going was, you have basketball, football, volleyball. Even volleyball can kind of be a niche sport. Pretty much everybody knows baseball, softball, basketball, and football. But those more niche sports, lacrosse, volleyball, rowing, how do you prepare for those? And do you ever are you ever asked to do them and you're like, "Oh man, I don't know." Or are you more of like, "Oh yeah, let's do this. Like, let's figure this out."
It's cautiously optimistic. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I think that's what it probably similar to you when you've had especially PA gigs
Yeah.
for sports that you might not be as familiar with. I think we both share it with lacrosse, and we've talked about it. So there's a little bit more extra preparation that you might do outside of putting together team notes and player notes. Well, now it's maybe printing out a sheet that has official signals or something of that regard.
Mhm.
But it's always excited to do a sport because ultimately that's something that you can add to your resume, and
Yeah.
you never know where it might lead you as well.
And, I kind of another kinda cautionary tale, I guess, not even really, is I always say yes to everything, and you know what? If it doesn't go well once, then that's one time. So, like like you just said, Tyler, with me doing PA, I did the national championships for fencing a couple weeks ago. I have watched maybe a com- total of 10 minutes of fencing in my life before that, but just being there and talking to people and you pick it up. I am actually excited for the Paris Olympics now coming up because there's going to be fencing on and it's going to be kind of cool because like some of the people I was talking to and all that are going to be there or competing or officials will be there stuff like that. So that adds that. But if I would have done that and it went poorly, then in my mind, like yeah, that sucks. But at the same time, now I know I don't want to do it. But if I ever get asked to do it again, I'm 100% in. So I'm sure it's the same with you for some sports. Do you have a sport that kind of like that happened where you were like, I know absolutely nothing. I'm nervous going into it, but you know, it ended up going well and you're like, you know what, this is a pretty cool sport. I kind of want to do this again.
It was volleyball. Well, first off, you got me beat on fencing. The only thing I know about fencing is that Neil Diamond was once a national championship fencer at New York University. But
I never knew that.
well, there you go. I mean,
I never knew that.
you never know what you're gonna
See,
hear.
I don't need to know all these like intricate facts like you do. You've got the details down. I just need to get the names right.
It
Which
can come
was
up
a
in conversation.
challenge for fencing. I gotta
Oh,
say, was a challenge.
oh yeah. So and there you go. That's where the communication sets in with coaches and
Yeah.
SIDs and all that. But it was volleyball for me. I did a little bit of volleyball in high school and knew the basis, I think. But when we got to Ohio State, Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio wanted to do more women's volleyball in the fall
Mhm.
because that was that second year, or that my first year here in 2021. That was really the year when it all started to come together for Jen Flynn Oldenburg and her program.
And
And
was that the second year of Covelli or the
I
first
believe
year?
so. Yes, yes,
That
and,
was when
and I
they
know
really oh, sorry to cut you off. That was when they really started kinda making a show out of the games at Covelli and put everything together and made it a spectacle to come watch.
absolutely. And that's I think that was part of the reason why, Dave, it just became a sport that I wanted to latch onto because it was against a top 10 Notre Dame team, and Ohio State had just knocked off number 4 Washington. And I knew that it was going to be like a cool environment. It was going to be a big matchup, and the students piled in row by row. I mean, they were 20 rows deep. It was really
Mhm.
cool. But then before the match, before first serve, the light show came on. I'm like, what is this? Everybody's got thunder sticks that were handed out to them by the great Redcoat staff. And that's when I was like, wow, there's a lot of buzz around this program. And then they beat Notre Dame in 4 sets, and you're like, whoa, one, this team's for real. Two, there's an opening to carve my way, making volleyball more of a niche sport to get more on air reps. And it's just been something that I've loved to call the last 3 years here.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of broadcasting and what you do is really working off the crowd. And so when you have a show production and big props to Caleb Clark and his team for putting that kind of stuff together. He is another guy that works with a bunch of students and they put all that together. A lot of that student run. Um, but when you have an atmosphere like that, it makes your job easier. Doing PA, it makes my job easier to get excited and make those big calls. Um, so that's pretty cool because I know you do cover a lot of sports. So I was interested in kind of hearing about that. But you recently or in the past year or two mentioned that you started with Lake County Captains.
Yeah, yeah. So this year will be my first year as the broadcast and media relations intern for the Captains, which are the high A affiliate of the Cleveland Guardians. And what a well ran organization. I mean, and this isn't just coming from my my maybe biased lens, but people around minor league baseball and around baseball know that they do an incredible job of marketing the team. One, they're 15 minutes east of downtown Cleveland, so they're the closest affiliate of the Guardians. But whether that's from their branding, their mascots, the on-field product has improved throughout the years. They won a championship 14 years ago in the Midwest League. And I mean, everything about that organization, people have started to really pick up on. Great social media presence as well, which you got to have when you're a minor league baseball, organization. Because I mean, every minor league team has a well-ran social media crew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about. And
It
so
really is. That's, minor league baseball is about you know, not to be but it's about the gimmicks. That's what minor league baseball is, and
yeah,
that's what makes it fun.
it really is. I mean, the prospects are great, and I mean, the teams. Every guy on the team has been the best player on their team at some point. And whether
Mhm.
this is minor league ball, summer ball, college ball, even maybe more so minors and summer ball. I mean, all these guys come in, they're fighting each other for a spot to elevate, but they also become great friends and brothers on and off the field, all while doing that. So
Yeah,
it's this cacophony of promotion and friendship and promotions from an organizational standpoint. It's really cool, and I'm excited to keep on broadcasting for the captains and handling Logan Petoskey with media relations. It's something that I'm really looking forward to.
that's awesome. So, what do you if you were given the choice, or do you even have a preference on calling a game on TV versus radio? Do you have a preference on those?
If I got the opportunity to call a game first and foremost, whether that's TV or radio, I would say yes immediately.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of those
Oh,
things
of
where
course.
you just love what you do. So
Yep.
I I love the chance to do both and have a variety. However, radio, what an awesome thing. And I really believe that radio will never die. I mean, TV is obviously king, but there is, from a play-by-play perspective, there is something that has to be said about radio broadcasting being an art,
Yeah.
because you are, and this is some of the best advice that's just stuck with me, is when you're on the radio, you have to treat every listener that's listening to your game as if they were blind, and you have to provide the color, you have to provide the description, the location, give geography, describe what's going on in the stands or anything that's going on the benches. You're looking beyond the court, the field, the ice, the diamond net sometimes. And also, too, you have to balance that with making sure you nail every little detail and also make sure you capture the big moment. And you're your own writer, your
Yeah.
own describer. Like, that's the coolest thing ever, is that you get this blank canvas and you get to take with it everything that this game has to offer. And on the TV side, what I also think is really fun is, well, one, you get to play point guard and set up your analyst and have a lot more dialogue and banter, which is awesome. And
Mhm.
two, for as a play-by-play guy, you're playing traffic cop and you're providing captions. And sometimes that's fun. Like, that is
Yeah.
really fun to kind of give a Pat Summerall like description where less is more. It's so much fun. And sorry for the long-winded answer. I think radio is more of an art. TV is kind of like you're writing a narrative. You're also writing a concise story.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to get to do what we do.
And, growing up in Cleveland, I mean, I'm from Akron, so close enough. I was in the Cleveland market, like, we were spoiled growing up, Tom Hamilton on the Brown or on the Guardians, Indians. You had Joe Tate for a long time with the Cavs. You got, Jim Donovan for the
Mm.
Browns, like, spoiled. And then if you're growing up listening to Ohio State, you got Paul Keels, and like Ohio is a very underrated market compared to the rest of the country,
Oh
which
my
is
god.
crazy.
You're so right. And then you go down to Cincinnati and you've got, I mean, he's retired, but you have Marty Brennaman.
Yeah,
It, I mean, the two voices of baseball on the radio in Ohio, and Tom Hamilton and Marty Brennaman, they combined for over 70 plus years of radio experience and the soundtracks of the summers. And
yeah,
before Hammy, it was Herb Score. And
yeah.
before Herb Score, Jimmy Dudley was one of the main
I
guys.
mean,
Before Jimmy Dudley was Jack Craney.
Hall of Famers, just one after another. And then you add in, the newer franchise, the Blue Jackets. You've got Bob McElligott on the radio, who he does the games himself. He doesn't have a color guy. He doesn't have a second analyst with him. He prefers it that way. Which, when you think about the game of hockey, is crazy to be able to do that on your own. It blows my mind, and I love like talking to people about that. But yeah, 100%. Ohio is amazingly underrated when it comes to being compared to other, you get the other larger markets, and it's just people think we're not as good, but we are. So that being said, who it, and you might not even do this, but who do you model your broadcast after, or do you try and make it your own?
I make it my own, but there are so many different elements that I've tried to infuse or take in mind heading into a
Hmm.
broadcast. Like, because I mean, I'm a radio nerd. I'm a
Yeah,
radio and TV broadcasting nerd. Like, it is. I love music. I'm a big music historian, but when I'm not listening to music, I'm listening to a game. And I think that it's important to be you and be yourself, but I think that, what makes you you is your influences and who you listen to. And naturally, that's going to show up into your broadcast at times, while also you find yourself and who you are on the mic. I'd
yeah,
say Tom Hamilton is one of my biggest influences, longtime radio broadcaster of the Cleveland Guardians. I am so thankful for Tom Hamilton for just one being the soundtracks of
hmm,
summers my entire life.
yeah,
Jim Rosenhaus, who I also am super grateful for. They've given great feedback. They've been just great role models and mentors and people that I personally can go to. Like, I'm just so grateful for them. And Tim Alcorn as well, the Cleveland Cavaliers radio broadcaster. He has had a lot of footsteps to follow, going from Joe Tate, who is the only voice, albeit from his 1 year hiatus when he went to the New Jersey Nets, but he was the longtime voice of the Cavaliers. John Michael is the only really other guy to be on a headset for the Cavaliers radio network. Tim
yeah,
Alcorn jumps in on 2 3 weeks notice, and 4 or 5 years later, he hasn't looked back. John Miller with the San Francisco Giants and Sunday Night Baseball is another one that I just love listening to. He's the voice of 10 p.m. first pitches on the Bay, right outside McCovey Cove. Kevin Harlan is one of my favorites, especially listening to the Westwood One on radio for Monday Night Football. And then Jason
yep.
Benetti. Oh my gosh, what a
Oh yeah,
talent!
dude.
What a
How
what a
lucky is
wealth.
Detroit
Oh,
to
unbelievable.
to to get him over there from Chicago? Just in, so lucky to get him.
So lucky. And he's just, I mean, when it comes to weaving a story and also, referencing all these different non-sports things, I think
Yeah,
is such a valuable thing, and it's one thing that I certainly always like to do. And then you go down the rabbit hole, and you've got your Vin Scullys and Dick Enbergs and even Kurt Gowdy's, like, mastering the art of TV play by play in a time where stats were not as plentiful as they
Yeah.
were. I mean, it was more of a blank canvas on TV when you have to fill more air, have to fill more conversation. So that's times when, it's awesome to go back and listen to those guys to see how they can do a lot with little.
And so touching on, stats and things aren't as available back then. I've told this story on here before, but I remember I believe it was Joe Tate's last game, or maybe they did a documentary on him, but there was an interview and they were talking to the TV guys that had traveled with the team, several years before or whatever. And they were saying, that they pulled a prank on Joe Tate, and he had this giant thick binder that had every team, every player's stats for the season, career milestones, highlights, all this stuff, just info that he could pull from and fill time. And so one night he went out for dinner. They snuck into his hotel room and stole the binder, and they were just going to give it back to him the next day at the game. He gets to the game, they go to give it back to him. He had the binder with him. And they're like, "What, like, does he have a second one?" He recreated it from memory. Like, they said they were literally, like, shaken up by how and it's things like that that people don't realize how much work you guys do when you do games and how much it takes to do that. But that's, yeah, one of my favorite stories, like, going into it, and then, you know, I just reiterating again how lucky we are to have guys like Tom Hamilton, just like you said, the voice of the summer for Northeast Ohio. Another thing that I wanted to kind of mention based on what you just said is filling time with things that aren't the game and using references and things like that. And just giving you another shout out. I've got nothing but shout outs to give you. And another one is, I believe it was you and Eli last week were calling a game, and just the references that I was hearing coming from the other side of the room were just hysterical. So just another reason, if you are able to, if you're even the slightest bit interested in sports, not even Ohio State sports, just sports, listen to these guys on BTN Plus. Listen to their broadcasts. They're so fun to listen to. Tyler, that's the only real question I have, other than what is your plan? Or what is, let's rephrase that because you're a college student. So what is your dream?
So
If I could tell you I have the power to give you your dream job or your dream opportunity. I don't. I'm sorry. But what what would that be?
my ultimate dream is to be a radio play-by-play broadcaster for a professional sports team or a Division One university, while also being able to get to call games on a national level for a TV network. I've grown up, idolizing the guys that can really do that. And whether that's John Miller or Kevin Harlan, Jason Benetti, Brian Anderson, all these guys that get to be with teams, get to be a part of that day by day, but then
Mhm.
also maybe one day out of the week get to do games on a national level. I mean, how would you not want to do that? That just seems so cool, and it would be something that I would just give everything to do. And I'd say that's my ultimate goal. Another side note, it's one that I've really thought about a lot lately, is to also just continue to love what I do. And because I think there have been some times, like anybody, where I'm sure you've had it, Dave, where
Yeah.
sometimes you're maybe going through a long week where you're questioning, am I really having fun with this? Or is this really something that I want to consider doing? And then you just got to go back and remember that little kid with the ESPN microphone in his hand at Christmas interviewing everybody. The
Yep.
guy that, you remember that first broadcast. You remember that first game you did PA for when you had the mic in your hand, and you remember that feeling. And I think that's one thing that will always keep me striving towards that goal, is just remembering where you were in past stages, and remembering the first times as well.
Now, if I ask you, what is one, I'm gonna go fun with this, not necessarily sentimental, but one fun memory that you have from calling a game. We'll stick with Ohio State. We won't go back to high school. But just one memory or one thing that happened. Doesn't even have to be a game situation. It just could be something funny that happened in the booth or whatever. Does anything come to mind?
Well, one thing that comes right off the bat that was just one of my favorite things, and you're gonna remember it immediately because it was 2 weeks ago, and it was Ohio State and Purdue,
Yep.
and it was I mean there it was a mound visit in the bottom of the ninth with Ohio State down by one. They they had runners on first and second at the time, like big
Yeah.
spot. And this is what I love about working with Eli Burgett, who you've mentioned, and I
Oh yeah.
hope he gets the chance to come on. All of a sudden, he brings up Wii Sports,
Yeah.
and that just set off a 30-second snowball of Wii Sports related uh, banter. And
Yeah.
then the pitching coach for Purdue goes back to the dugout. Trey Lipsey's at the plate, or he's on deck. Sorry.
Yeah.
The man before him, I believe in the nine spot, I believe it was Hunter Ross, and he was pinch
I,
hitting. I don't
I think
remember
so.
that.
Yes.
And then one at bat later, Trey Lipsey hits a walk off home run. Like this is big spot. This is to even the series. Comeback walk off dramatic spot, and we're talking about Wii Sports. That was
Yeah.
one, but then when that pitching mound visit ended, it goes from 100 to 0,
Yep.
and you just
Right back to
immediately
work.
lock in. Yup, you go right back to it, and then Eli just starts, dropping a quick breakdown on pitch sequencing in the at bat, and you just go back to where you were. But that's a fun memory. Like a couple, sentimental memories. I getting to call the Peach Bowl in 2022. And obviously, it was a result that Ohio State fans did not like. But I mean, that whole experience was surreal. And
Yeah.
getting to do it with, you know, three guys that I, had gotten to work with and to be friends with and, did the whole season with. And Matt Goldman, Cole Emplet, who's a sports director in Twin Falls, Idaho, with the CBS affiliate, doing great stuff, and Caleb Spinner. Like getting to do that with three guys that you enjoy working with. That was a lot of fun. And the other one is, ooh, the other one is baseball. This is what I love the most sometimes is the rain delays.
Oh yeah.
It was, or in this case, snow delay. We're just gonna call it precipitation delay.
It's Ohio. It all falls into one.
Yeah, all of the above delay. And it was April. It was my freshman year, and I was doing the game solo on SGSR, and they played Youngstown State. It was, I mean, Mother Nature was spitting every type of precipitation you could imagine. There was an hour delay, and Marco Fergali, it was Dollar Dog Night. So Marco, the Big Ten Plus production manager, brings in hot dogs for everybody in this booth. And everybody's just sitting around talking baseball, eating dollar dogs in the warmth, which was
Yeah.
great. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
people that were on the camera operators, like they were getting the thaw out. And
Yeah.
then it's just like that Purdue game. It goes 10 innings, and it's 11 o'clock, and a walk-off home run gets hit. And it's one of those things, like there's so many different memories that happen within each game, and it's the little things that you remember. I think Dave, like do you have sometimes like the moments that you really cherish, or the days and games that you really cherish? Do you always happen to remember like the little things or the small details?
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%. I there's quite a few that are that way, and it's like it's to me it's more remembering the moment and looking back at it and realizing, like, for example, right, we had Ohio State hosted Virginia Tech in the NIT second round, I believe. Um, and I did PA for that. And that was my first time doing PA for Ohio State basketball. So I'd done other sports, smaller sports, baseball, stuff like that. But, you know, basketball's the real deal. And that game, they had the upper level closed. but we sold out the lower level. We had, I want to say, 7,600 people there. It was loud. It was electric. We had are just coming off the announcement of Coach Diebler getting the full-time job. When I One of the little moments is when I announced his name after the roster as the head coach, I could not hear my next announcement because it was so loud. But what's funny is that like I kind of took that second to realize that, and then like you say, you lock back in and it just goes silent and you're just doing your thing. And it's unreal how you could be in front of thousands of people and then all of a sudden they just don't exist. And it's just, to me, that's just really cool how that's able to happen. And there's very
That's
few people that get that experience. Whether people always think it's that, the athletes always get it, obviously, but they don't think about the guys at the table that are running the clock or the scoreboard or doing what you're doing with the broadcast. You lock in and it's that little, like, to me, it's the little moment of realization where it goes from silent to you realize how loud and electric it is, and then it just comes back in. And it, to me, is one of the coolest moments.
That's so special. And like, what a cool moment. You were basically the first person as the full-time
Yeah,
guy to announce Jake Diebler's name, a name that's going to be announced for,
hopefully
all
many
year.
years,
Yeah,
at least 5, hopefully
at
more than
least.
that. But yeah, it was a really cool moment, especially coming off of. So that was a Saturday game. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I had done fencing, left fencing to go do basketball. So complete 180 on the energy levels. And then Sunday morning, back to fencing. So that was definitely a very quick up and down for energy levels. But it's all part of the job. I'm willing to do it. It's
A microphone is one of the greatest sources of natural caffeine that
yeah.
you will ever find.
And what's funny is, in all honesty, so not to take too much of your time here, but my story, you mentioned, you got your microphone when you were a child and all that. I didn't even think about PA or things like that. Like, so I grew up a Michigan fan. Give me all the hate you want. I don't care. We had a Michigan marching band CD where the PA announcer announced the band coming on, and that's beyond that. That's all I had ever thought about a PA announcer. Then in 8th grade, once again, Cleveland Indians, Cleveland, it was Indians at the time, but the Guardians now. I get a thing in the mail saying, "Hey, I was part of their kids club or whatever it's called." It said, "Hey, you won. You get to be the PA announcer for an inning for a game." And I'm like, "Okay, this is kind of cool. This is awesome." And ever since then, I did it. And ever since then, I was in 8th grade. It was the summer before my 8th grade year. Ever since then, I had kind of like internally dreamed of doing it, but I've never been like, I'll talk to anybody, but I'm not that outgoing guy that'll get in front of 1,000 people and talk. So even 2 years ago, if you would have said, "Hey, take this microphone, go say something," I would have been freaking out. And I was thinking about that when I was doing fencing. I was literally walking around with a handheld mic in my hand, announcing things. And I'm like, this is like just surreal how quickly it changes. And it's like it's another thing where, for younger people, if you have a dream to do something, don't let your, nervousness and shyness get in the way. It'll, like you said, a microphone is the biggest burst of caffeine ever.
It really is. And I think that's the beauty of the sports industry, not just broadcasting, announcing. This is not exclusive to that, but every path is different. You could be doing this for 18 years, you could be doing this for 2,
Hmm.
but it's what you do in the moments, where you have what you have that really makes you you. That's what, like, I really enjoy about Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio, especially, is, Dave, it's a club.
Yeah.
And like anybody can do it. You can be a molecular genetics major, you can be a journalism major. You could be doing this for 5 years or 5 days, and everybody is together as one unit. Now my one question for you, Dave, is whose names did you announce? Do you remember?
For the Indians,
Yeah, yeah.
I remember one, and it was I'll never forget this. It was because he was my favorite player growing up, still is. I actually have um my jersey from when I was a kid with his name and number on the back, and I have it because I'm not actively, I'm passively trying to figure out if there's a way to get him to sign it so I can frame it for my office. But I was bummed because he was the fourth batter up. So if they went 1, 2, 3, I wasn't going to get it. And sure enough, one of the guys got a single, and I got to announce Travis Hafner, number 48, and it was just like it was awesome. And the cool thing was that um, I can't remember his last name. Pritt is the last name. He is the owner and founder of Pritt Entertainment Group in Akron. He was filling in for the PA announcer that day. I think he did Sunday games or something like that. The regular guy couldn't do them those days. Fast forward, that was before my 8th grade year. So fast forward, we'll say 7 or 8 years. I end up working Akron football games where he's the producer. And
Come
so
on.
it's just a small world thing. Obviously, he didn't remember me, but it was one of those things where it's like as soon as I saw him, like, I remember you. You did this, you did that. And, that's another thing where we're spoiled in Northeast Ohio. You have your radio and TV influences. I have Jeff Shreve for the who does the Browns, used to do the Cavs. I worked side by side with him at Akron. Getting to know Bob Kennedy before he passed away was one of the great honors of my life. I was so mad at myself when I did the basketball game against Virginia Tech because when he did basketball and there was a 1-and-1, it would always be, he did a lot of Capital University games, but he would always be shooting 1-and-1. And I was so mad that I missed that opportunity because I got too like caught up in it in the moment. And I'm like trying to get everything done. And then I'm like, that was a 1-and-1. And now there's 9 fouls on the board. So the next one's going to be shooting 2. So like, it was over. So here's hoping I get that opportunity again. But yeah, I mean, we're spoiled with a lot of these guys that do stuff um for Northeast Ohio and Ohio in general. Having Greg Murray at the Jackets, having Ahmad Crump who does the intros and the in-game hosting for the Cavs. It's awesome. We have great influences here.
It is, and I can't speak for other states and areas, but there's a lot of crossover when it comes to sportscasting. Like Jeff Shreve, for example, he does
Yeah,
PA for the Browns, but he also does games on the radio for one of the local stations, I believe, in Canton for high school football games. I mean,
he does TV for Mount Union College. He did obviously like you said the Browns. He did Akron football. He does Akron basketball. Like he does everything.
oh wow, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to show you, like Joe Tate did Mount Union football
Yeah,
games for the longest time. I think it was maybe like I think he did it for a year or two after he maybe longer that he retired from the Cavs. He would still drive because he didn't live too far away from Mount, which is in Alliance, and
yeah.
he'd go drive and do the football games.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is, like you kinda mentioned it, where we have all of these people who do this stuff, and people think, "Oh, especially when it comes to PA announcers. Obviously, broadcasters are a little bit different because it takes some more, but the PA announcers, we usually not usually, a lot of us don't work in sports. Like we were talking about Jeff. Jeff works last I knew, I think he was working for like a software company. I'm an electrical engineer. I design power and lighting for buildings every day. And then I leave at the end of the day and go work sports. And so it's like a lot of people don't realize that. They just hear the voice and it is what it is. And Tom Snyder, our new football PA announcer at Ohio State, is he works at DeSales High School. He's a tennis coach there. So like there's a lot of really cool things that a lot of people don't know, which is the reason why I started doing this and started this show to kind of get to know some people a little bit more. So Tyler, I really appreciate your time being on here. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to talk about or mention before we get to the power play questions, which are the four incredibly random questions that I ask everybody who comes on just to kind of get a bring everything together. So I don't know if you have anything before we get to those, but if not, I'm ready when you are.
All right. Well, somebody just committed a penalty, and we're going on the power play. Let's
Going on
do
the
it.
power play. I need to have Greg Murray give me a recording of his, like, instead of jackets on the power play, do like into the stands on the power play or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. I did ask him, he was on the show, and I asked him for an example or if he could do it for us, and his response was, I'll tell you what I tell everybody else, come to a game.
Love it. Love it.
So the first one, if you could have dinner with any person, past or present or future, who would it be?
Ooh, this is a great question. If I were to have dinner with anybody, I think. Ooh, this is a really good question. I would
Incredibly
like
random though.
it is very incredibly random.
It's a big gear shift here.
I One of the guys I would pick, Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Okay.
I would love to hear what happened in 1919. What happened after? Because he kept playing baseball just because he loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to have dinner with Shoeless Joe. Um, I would love to have dinner with Vin Scully. Oh my gosh, the stories that you could hear. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah.
I think Vin is he's got the late great Vin Scully would absolutely be atop that list. And then Bill Raftery. Oh my gosh. If you get Vin and Raft together
Oh yeah.
for dinner, I mean you're gonna get information, you're gonna get stories, you're going to get laughs. Oh my gosh, you can't go. Those two guys especially. I think
Mm-hmm.
Shoeless Joe would be like a really great serious conversation. That Southern drawl, you can listen to
Yep.
hear him talk all day. I think you get those three guys together, you don't know what you're gonna hear.
Yeah. All right. Number two. What is your favorite venue that you have worked in?
Favorite venue I've worked in, probably Madison Square Garden. Getting to
That's awesome.
call Ohio State and North Carolina for Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio with Matt Goldman, and Daphne Chi. Like that was really fun, and it was in the Mecca. That was
Yeah.
sweet.
That had to be I couldn't imagine just the feeling of walking into into there. I'm slow, very slowly. It's gonna take me a long time working my way around to go to all the NHL arenas. And that's one that like I just know as soon as you walk in, it's just kind of like you just gotta stop for a second.
Yeah, it's one of those places. It stops you dead in your tracks, and you walk in, and you can hear that building talk.
Hmm. Yeah. What TV show are you currently watching or binging?
So I just went through the HBO gauntlet of Sopranos for the third time, um, Entourage for probably the 18th time, and now I've never watched it. I'm watching Curb Your Enthusiasm for
Oh,
the
it's a great
first time.
show.
Oh, I can't wait to keep
Great
going.
show.
My
Uh,
favorite TV show of all time though is The Office. Seinfeld is 1B.
yep.
What's your favorite?
Oh man, I got Ted Lasso is very, very high up there. That show just had a lot of meaning. That's one of those, that's almost a sentimental one for me. It came into my life at the right time. Um, but Seinfeld, there it's hard to beat a show about nothing. So I would say those are a very close 1 and 2. And then the final one, we're gonna say they're making a movie about your life, and you get to pick who plays you. Who do you pick?
Oh,
I know that's a good one.
this is a great question. All right, a guy with glasses. Huh. If I could have Ian Eagle somehow find a way to play me, or if I
I
could
love
play
him.
more so, no. Can I rephrase that? Can
Yeah,
I like kind of create a question or an answer based off your question? Can I
yeah.
play Ian Eagle in a movie? Is that possible?
I'll take that. I could see it perfectly too. It's perfect.
I would love to do that. Because he is so good. He deserves a biopic. My God, he was so awesome during his first Final Four. But I don't know. I would love to have like, I mean it's tough. If somehow, some way, like, ooh, like a goofy guy.
Yeah,
Like a John C. Riley, I think would be fun. Adam
yeah,
Sandler would be fun.
yep. Any of those guys.
Yeah.
You see they're coming out with Happy Gilmore too.
Oh, I can't wait. Hey,
I'm nervous, but
I I
I
think
think it'll be all right.
I think it's gonna be all right because like Christopher McDonald has turned into Shooter McGavin over the
He really
last 30
has.
years.
And it's getting more and more. If you follow him on Twitter, it's more and more every day.
Yes. And
But
I think he's gonna be like again, when you watch almost exclusively Adam Sandler movies, you can kind of pick up on his writing style and whatnot. I have a weird feeling that this was going to be centered, maybe not completely, but my fan fiction theory is it's like Shooter's Revenge or something. Like
ooh.
I think this has more of a Shooter McGavin arc.
And that's the thing is, I feel Sandler's gonna be so involved in the writing. I don't think he'd let 2 ruin 1. Like, I don't think he'd let 2 be so bad that it would ruin number 1, you know?
Right.
Okay.
It's not a Will Ferrell never wanted to do Elf 2 because what more can you do to
Yeah,
Elf?
yeah, it's perfect. Well, Tyler, on that note, I really appreciate your time, man. Um, I look forward to honestly following your career moving forward. I Everybody that I've talked to that were the conversation where you come up, and I am not making this up. Everybody is just talking about how like they already know you're going to be successful, and you're you're going to be one of the numbers I'm going to be happy to have in my phone. And every once in a while, you might get a text from me saying, "Hey, I saw you on TNT or NBC or something like that." So
Dave, that means a lot, and
absolutely,
trust
man.
me, every time that text comes, I'm gonna be pumped
I
because
appreciate it.
seriously, getting to know you. I mean, we had always talked and stopped and had
Yeah.
great conversations last year, but I think ever since that men's lacrosse game, I think
Yep.
that was against Cleveland State,
Yep.
getting to talk to you more and seeing sharing a press box with you at baseball
Oh,
and
that's
softball.
some of the most fun, dude. Just sitting there and just talking and getting to kind of listen in on your conversations and kind of, feed off of them during the breaks is a ton of fun when I get to do replay for those.
The pleasure is ours to be with you. Seriously, thank you for thinking of me and coming up with the idea to highlight student broadcasters and members of student media. It's such a tight knit group, whether that's broadcasting, writing, production. Most of us, are in the same classes together. We
Yeah.
are all going through the same day to days of extracurricular work and school, and we're going through it together. Like, it's a special group, and everyone around the country knows each other in student sports media. It's just one of those funny things where whether you've met them or you follow each other. Like
Yep.
it's a cool group.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm just yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of all this, because if it wasn't for me doing the stuff that I do, I wouldn't ever realize that there's students so involved. You know what I mean? So when they call the Big Ten Network Student U, it really is, and it's a ton of fun watching you guys work. And I wish I had the opportunity when I was in school, but I went to Akron. We didn't have anything like that, but you know, if you're in school, specifically at Ohio State or any school really, see what you can do, figure it out, and hopefully you can get something working. But Tyler, I appreciate your time. I know you got to probably start getting ready for baseball here in a little bit, so I'm gonna let you go. Um, if there's anything else, this is your time.
Well, I mean, I'll get off my soapbox. But last thing for me, Dave, one, I'm super appreciative of coming on. I'm appreciative of you, and I know you know that. And two, like one thing as well, this is a great learning opportunity for anybody interested, whether that's being on air, being on a camera in the control room, on replay graphics. Like that's another thing too that I've gotten to do a couple times. Haven't done it as much as I've liked, but want to do it more. Is going behind the camera and learning more, because ultimately that's another skill you can put in your toolkit. But then too,
Yep.
it makes you understand the TV broadcast a little bit better. But for anybody that's listening to this that wants to do something that we do in some area, say yes, go and do it, even if you might not think you're qualified yet. This is a learning opportunity for everybody, and we really welcome that. And also too, like, while this is a great chance to learn, I think, I speak on behalf of everybody in the program, but like we take a lot of pride and a lot of intensity in getting to do this. Like, we want to make this as professional of an experience as possible. So we get to learn, but we also get to carry ourselves like this is a network level, and
Yep.
we keep on working day by day, game by game, show by show on trying to get towards that. So it's a really unique opportunity, and I'm super grateful to be a part of. Just what an awesome group. What an
For
awesome group.
real. For real. And last thing, where can people find you? Social media, anything like that?
Yeah, you can find me on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, at Tyler Danburg. For those listening on audio, last name is DANB as in boy, URG.
Perfect. And you'll be tagged in everything when the episodes release. So it'll all be out there. Tyler, I appreciate your time, man.
I thank you so much, Dave, and literally, see you soon.
See you soon.